As you can see, we'll be reading from Psalm 133, verse 1. How good and pleasant is the... Let me start over again. How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. You may be seated.
It was Sunday. For many, it was a normal Sunday. Bringing crops to market or livestock to the butcher. It was the beginning of a new week, just another day. But not for him. He was unsure. He was tired. But so on edge from the events of 2 nights ago that the fatigue had not touched his eyes, his bloodshot, tired eyes. His ears, never the same again, burnt, but not by the sun, but by a rooster. And his eyes locked open by the stare to follow. He looked around at the other men in the room, shock, uncertainty of the events, fear of what was to come. All evident by the strain on the 9 other faces. They were unified by time, by experience, by fear, and the unknown, uncertain of what was next. And then the door burst open. Good morning. Hope everyone is doing well. If by chance I fall asleep while I am speaking, someone just come up and just give me a poke, and we can get on with where I had left off. The Lone Ranger is a glorified American figure, right? But not ideal. God did say it is not good for man to be alone. And then in parentheses, you might not have read this in the Bible yet, but he says after that, because if man is alone, then the Old West happens. But also because people are meant to be in community. Unity, according to the internet, which is the new dictionary, the definition is joined together for a common purpose by common feeling. We like to have people think the way we do, right? Because then there's no argument. Because if I'm right and you think I'm right, then I like you, right? So, and often we choose to associate with those people more than the people that want to argue with us about the color of the sky, okay? So we buy sports gear, and we plaster bumper stickers on our car, and we talk about things that interest us only to the people that also are interested by those things because we like to be unified. So it often makes me think of, every football season when it's cold, you're guaranteed to see those 4 guys that can't spell right, and they go to the football game, and they're not wearing any shirts, and they're spelling a word, but one guy's standing in the wrong spot. So they're shared in that unity of being cold together, and then they get to share in the unity of hypothermia at the hospital together later. We like to be unified. So Psalm 133, 1-3 says, "Behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity. It is like the precious oil on the head, running down on the beard of Aaron, running down on the collar of his robes. It is like the dew of Hebron, which falls on the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord has commanded the blessing, life forevermore." So the psalmist wants to make sure that people singing these verses know how good and pleasant it is when brothers live in unity. And I know all of you can relate on, pouring oil over your head and all of you that have, I know all of you have beards, and so all of you can relate to obviously we can't relate to that because, that's not a typical cultural thing for us, and not everyone in this room has a beard. So we can't necessarily relate to that, and we kind of scratch our heads and go, okay, what's the psalmist talking about? So imagine that maybe you went on a mission trip and someone buys you a massage after the mission trip because you're so tired and worn, and it's not a hint to anyone, but, or for me, really, getting to sleep in my bed, my own bed yesterday, oh, bliss. It was great. And then my alarm went off. But the psalmist is trying to communicate to us that being in unity, good unity, is experiencing luxury. And so we need to make sure that we strive for good unity, good dwelling. So this was the fourth mission trip that our teen group has been on. Fourth church-sponsored mission trip. And completely thanks to your prayers and your sponsorship in order to make this possible. I'm very thankful that we are part of a church that finds mission work important. It is a great blessing to me to be able to lead these groups, to do some great kingdom work. So we went to St. Louis, in case you didn't know. And I was very exact in my goal for this mission trip. I'm very goal-oriented. I like to plan ahead. I don't like there to be questions about things going into an event. I like to plan and then plan again, okay, so that there are no surprises. And unfortunately, in my business of ministry, you have to work with other people that might not be as goal-oriented and planning-oriented as you are. And that was the case this mission trip. And so I had to create a goal for myself that I knew I could realistically tackle. Because I didn't know what work we were going to be doing while we were there. So, my goal was for the group to experience unity. To think about what unity was. I simply wanted the group to experience that goodness. And I believe that we were able to accomplish that. I think we were able to accomplish that in the 29 hours that we spent in a vehicle together. Never mind the work. But the main work that we did was at the North City Church of Christ. This is primarily a black congregation in an impoverished area of St. Louis. Though it is not a large congregation, they were able to purchase a large cathedral that they use for their primary ministry, and this was a purchase from the Catholic Church. This is the same church that Cherie, Alan and Christy's goddaughter, has been an intern for the last 2 years. We also worked with them 2 years ago on our previous mission trip to St. Louis. So it was good to be able to get back there and do some more work with them. Their main ministry focus is outreach on children in their immediate surrounding and in their immediate community. Since most families in that area do not have easy transportation or any transportation, most of the kids that come to these programs walk. Now, the immediate area is different than what you or I might think of as immediate area. And for me, I was like, okay, this is like a couple of blocks. Oh, no. It's not a couple of blocks. It's miles, okay? And I wasn't aware of this until Debbie and I got to take 7 of them home on Thursday night, and I'm driving, and I'm like, this is much further than I would want to walk. 2.5 miles later, I'm going, okay, we're still driving. Are we at your house yet? And all 7 of them got out and went to the house together. So the living, the community dwelling that is in that culture, even though it's America, is completely different than the common lifestyle that a lot of us experience. So the North City Church has a tutoring program which is able to help these kids with their schoolwork once a week. Happens on Thursday night. All of the outreach activities that this church does is connected with a meal. The reason being is that 99% of the family units in these communities are part of the low-income program at schools, which means the kids eat for free at schools, which means that meals at home is not a guarantee. They don't get to walk up to their fridge and look in it and stare for like 5 minutes going, I have so many options of what I'm going to eat, but I had that yesterday, so I'm not sure if I want to eat that because I hate leftovers. Now everyone's going to go home and have leftovers because they feel guilty. But food isn't a for sure thing for these kids, but it is a for sure thing at school and if they go to these church programs. And so it's a big draw for these kids to come to these programs because they know they will be able to eat. So in addition to the tutoring program, which averages at least 40 kids, they also have a mentoring program for select teenagers that have shown commitment to the tutoring program. So those teens will get together on Tuesday night and then come back for tutoring on Thursday night. During the summer, VBS is a large draw in the area. VBS is longer than a week during the summer because exposure for these kids is extremely important during the summer in order to make sure that they will come back to tutoring during the school year. They also supply teens with jobs during the summer. And these are primarily different craft jobs and tech jobs such as screen printing, carpentry, stuff like that, in order to give the teens tools in order to specialize in during the school year so that they can become employed after going to school. All of these are designed to break negative family trends that are so prevalent in this community. The campus has 4 buildings: the main church building, a school building which was a fully functioning Catholic school before it was sold, a rectory, and a nunnery. And the nunnery is currently standing as a halfway house. It's been rented out to an organization that helps men transition from being homeless into the workforce. So it's just like the rescue mission in that sense. It was good for him to get away, to get back to what was familiar. A lot had happened, and his mind was spinning. Fishing was always a good time to do some thinking. Of course, it was frustrating that they hadn't caught anything, and the sun was coming up now on another day on the sea. He was confused. He wasn't alone, though. All 7 of them were confused. They had talked about this at length while fishing. He checked the nets. Nothing. He looked up at the shore and saw someone standing there watching them. He hadn't been there a moment, he thought. Have you caught any fish? The stranger asked. No, they replied. Cast your nets on the right side of the boat, and you will find some. So they grabbed their nets, damp with the seawater, and threw their nets into the sea again. The nets sank, but not from water this time, but from fish. So many fish that they couldn't pull back into the boat. He looked up, grabbed his coat, and dove in the water. He knew who that man was. Unity provides us with direction and purpose, or it can. So we have a mission, and we know how to tackle our mission, or, on the other hand, we can be confused together. It's unity, but there's different types of unity. For the mission trip, we had direction to serve those organizations that we came in contact with, whether it be the North City Church or the McKnight Crossing Church, who was hosting us. Our mission was to serve. And service in our minds might be different than what service in reality is. For me, as a planned, organized individual, service is planned and organized and easy to do. But for someone else, it might be spur of the moment, or here's a list. If you can get to it, great. If you can't, okay. I don't know where any of the supplies are, but go ahead and try it. We have to be flexible. But the beauty of that is that we don't need to drive to St. Louis to find that unity. Sure, there are unique things that we were able to find in St. Louis, but we have a church family here, and we have a lot of unity, or potential for unity, in this family. We have a lot of great things to be united over, whether it be small groups, or the food pantry, clothing closet, bread giveaway, Bible studies, youth group activities. There are so many ways to get involved in this church family, so take advantage of those blessings. If you like to run, you can be united as an active group. You want to play softball? Guess what? We got a game tomorrow. For the second time, year in a row, the Secret Church was a big push, and there was fourth year in a row. I went last year. That was my first time going. So to me, it was two. But there were a lot of people at Jake and Denise's house on Friday night till 1 a.m. Midnight. It was short this year. We have a lot of things that we can be united over, and I encourage you to do that. As I said, we were at the North City Church for the first 2 days of our trip. Our main tasks during those days were cleaning and mopping and dusting and repairing, even doing some masonry. Some people know how to put cement on walls now, so if you need some patchwork done, I'd call someone else. Landscaping, mowing, flower planting, other random repairs. We covered it all. Because of the large campus and the lack of laborers to upkeep, and it is a gorgeous building, but because of how big it is and how old it is, things need to be repaired, and it's catching up on them. And just so happened that 13 people to do a lot of tasks was just what they needed, and our help was greatly welcomed. Our teens are motivated and good at staying on task. I didn't hear any complaining, which was great. Be proud of this group because they reflect the working spirit of a lot of you, and they look up to you to look and see how working in a good, godly way is shown. So thank you for being a good, godly example to them. Whether it be organizing books, which there were a lot of books to organize, a lot of children's books to organize, whether it be polishing wooden pews, sweeping, dusting, mopping, these teens did it all without grumbling and complaining, and were unified in their efforts that they made to make North City Church a better place to do ministry. Some time had passed. Their number had grown, and he was much more sure of his purpose. Unity is good, but when you are unified as a lost group, it just isn't the same as having purpose, and they had purpose now. Their teacher had beaten death. Unbelievable. He had shown them what the true kingdom was, not of this world. And now they waited for the helper that he told them to wait for. He looked around the upper room with a feeling of anticipation. It had been a crazy 50 days. And in that time, he had gone from his lowest point to a point where he felt empowered to testify how great his teacher is to him. He looked around the group of men and women and noticed something odd. Were those flames above their heads? Above his head? Was this the purpose, the unity they were waiting for? The unity that would change Simon Peter's life forever. So day 3. It was great to give back to a church that had given to us. McKnight did us a favor by letting us stay in their building for free. And so we called that home for the week that we were in St. Louis. We were able to help clean their building on Thursday and remake their preschool playground. And so you'll see some pictures here of the beginning and then the end product of what that was. It was great to work. It was great to have worked because the teens were able to come together and learn some new skills to remake a play area for kids. And this was unplanned work. You have to keep this in mind that our main goal on this trip, I found out, was just working at the North City Church. Now, we finished all of the work they had for us in 2 days. So we could have left early. But the kids were so insistent on staying for the whole time that we had planned that we had to go and find work to do. And it just so happened that the McKnight Church had work that they were planning on getting done, but with 13 extra people, were able to do earlier than they anticipated. And what a great blessing it was for us to be able to do that, because we were able to see a change in an area of this church in 1 day's time, from the beginning, what it looked like, to the end, and how that is so similar to someone that is lost and then finds Christ, and the immediate change that can occur in their life because of the power of God. So, we first had to mow and weed whack, and then spray, and do some roof work also, as you see here. We had to spray the grass in order to kill it, power wash the walls, and let me tell you, these walls needed to be washed. Madison did a great job at cleaning the walls. She greatly enjoys power washing, so if you need your house power washed this summer, be sure to call Madison and she'll do that for you. But the amount of grime that came off of these cement walls and then onto Madison was immense. And so Jeremy, my brother-in-law, who's one of the ministers at that church, said, if all you had done was power washed the walls, I would have been so thankful. And so those walls needed to be done. So we had to power wash the walls, then we had to lay down fabric and rubber mulch. And so how the teens were able to come together and move 200 bags of rubber mulch in order to lay in this area was great, because I mean, just think about the amount of work that would take 1 or 2 people to do, but with all of them working together, we were able to get it done in 1 day. The teachers came out in the afternoon as we were working and said, we are so thankful for the work that you were doing. And of course, the preschool kids were very interested in the noise that we were making. Every so often you'd see one plaster their face up against the window looking at us. So it was a great encouragement to me to see the work that was able to be completed. But our work was not done. So that evening, there's Madison power washing. Of course, the teens always look for times to pose, so you can never get them actually working. They're always posing instead. And I'm probably going to get an earful for putting this picture up. Anyways, our work was not done that day. That evening, we went back to the North City Church to help with their tutoring program. I was very encouraged to see our kids immediately integrate into the groups of kids that had come for the tutoring, whether it be just sitting with them while they were eating, talking to them, helping with the groups as they transitioned from the 4 stages. There was the eating room, the reading room, the math room, and the Bible study room. And our teens all had different roles in making the tutoring program work for that day. And that was a great opportunity. But I have a question for you. Has God empowered you? Unity is a great thing to be a part of, but the catch is that you have to be a part of it. A group of one is not unified. It's just one person. So, what are you doing to be united with your brothers and sisters? Sure, you're here this morning. Good, I'm glad. It's good for you to be here, united under Christ. But what about the rest of the week? What ministries do you call your own, but aren't your own because you're unified in a group? Who have you had over to your home recently? Part of our family. Shameless plug. Have you signed up to help with the youth rally yet? I really like the vision of the early church that Luke gives us in Acts 2:42 through 47. And they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship and to breaking of bread and to prayer. And awe came over every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles, and all who believed were together and had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing to all as they had need. And day by day, attending the temple together, breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. So Jesus established his church. It wasn't the best kept secret known to man. It was something that should attract people. And we are a united front, church. I encourage you to get involved in this unity work. Today is a great day to begin. So this morning, how is your walk? Are you following the shepherd, or are you a rebellious sheep, not unified with the other sheep? Today is the day to become unified. And you don't need to go to St. Louis in order to do that. You can be unified in this family today, now. So I challenge you to examine your lives, examine your hearts, but know that Christ is here for us, to help us, to unify us.